Santiago amigos, and welcome to The Old Man and the CV. This is episode 11. Let's get on with it. We're delighted to be joined by Sheila Hooper for this episode. Sheila is an experienced customer, loyalty and marketing director and has worked for major brands during her career, such as Barclays, Shell, Sainsbury's, Selfridges, Homebase, B&Q, the RAC, as well as the Charities Aid Foundation, the Energy Saving Trust, and the Guide Dogs for the Blind Association. Sheila has worked as a management consultant, business development, and strategy director in marketing services and in private equity. Sheila, welcome.
Thank you, Andy. I'm absolutely delighted to be here.
And it's a very impressive portfolio. Can you give our listeners some top-level highlights of your career so far?
Yes, of course, Andy. The continuous golden thread going through my career has been about customer focus. I have been absolutely focused on making things better for customers throughout my career. That is the secret, if there are any, to my success, and a lot of hard work. I was something of a pioneer. So the highlights were I was a pioneer almost by default for Homebase, where I was head of Spend and Save, their loyalty program, sometime in the last century. And that has set me up very well for my subsequent successes. I think the most recent highlight has been when I went to Barclays in my 50s and was told it would take me at least 6 months, if not 2 years, to navigate my way around the organisation. And I was delighted, without a map, to get myself around the organisation and make a difference within about 3 months. So I think that's been a big highlight. And I think what I would say is that comes from experience. You can't do that if you haven't got years and years of experience of various organisations and people, and understanding how important people, whether they be colleagues or customers, are to your success.
Well, that leads me nicely on to the first question, talking about that experience, because like many others, I know that there's a degree of frustration that the knowledge and the experience that you've got is currently going to waste, and quite rightly so. But you've got a slightly different aspect on this that hasn't been talked about on the podcast in depth yet. And this is about the lack of tax revenue that the government is collecting, because this golden generation of economically inactive workers is being largely ignored. What are your thoughts on that?
I think this started basically frustration of not having a job, but then I started, because I'm an analytical and creative person at the same time, and you can be, I thought, well, I haven't got this money to spend on restaurants, going out, eating, clothes or whatever. But most importantly, and perhaps what I care more about, is between the £40,000 and £50,000 a year I was paying in tax and national insurance. And for me, I value that as much as my own income, because that's my contribution to society. If we wind that slightly back, it actually means that could mean at least a teacher or a police officer, or 20,000 trees a year, or whatever it is, pumping oxygen back into the environment. But it means I'm not contributing, and that if you multiply that by however many million people it is, or 500,000, it gets to billions of pounds quite quickly. And I feel very strongly that society needs our money, and we could really be, of those of us who are looking for roles and can contribute at that kind of level. I mean, not just because we got gloriously big jobs, it's because we create value. We have that experience. We've done this before. We've grown businesses before by understanding what the commercial levers are we need to pull by customers and colleagues.
But now a quick word from our sponsors, Quick Brown Fox PR. They leverage their unique blend of journalistic experience and cross-industry learnings to enable them to focus on lighting up your brand. So if you need a nimble, agile and dynamic agency that jumps over those lazy dogs of PR, then get in touch with Quick Brown Fox today and light up your brand, whatever your industry. Okay, so there's some interesting points there. that you raised. So the number of economically inactive workers in the UK between 50 and 64 is about 3.5 million. It's about 27% of that particular group. Mm. It's due to a number of reasons, ill health, disability, or just having no desire to return to work. You know, forget all this, get them off the golf course and into the menial jobs. But if only a third of those want to get back to work into meaningful work, i.e. 1.2 million, if you look at the average payments in tax and you take away the negative impact of the benefits being paid, that works out at about 35 billion pound a year, 35 billion in lost revenue. And as you say, how many doctors, nurses, police officers, teachers, etc., can we buy and pay for with 35 billion plus all the trees, of course? So what are your thoughts on tax breaks and incentives then to get those inactive workers back into meaningful employment?
I think that the tax break should come from the government themselves in terms of employers. Let's face it, it's largely going to be larger employers who can afford these kinds of salaries. I believe that in the same way as the government suddenly found all that money to pay for those pensions of the 1% that they needed to encourage medical consultants to stay in working, that if you turn it slightly on its head and incentivize employers to make it tax efficient to give us jobs, then or tax us less, then that is a. I'd love to know whether that could be done. I think that's one solution. The other one, which is slightly different, is that I'm probably prepared to work for less. My outgoings may not have been what they were, aren't what they were 5 years ago. You know, I have felt that the undercurrent of the meaning of what people have been saying is that these people can go and work like us, can go and work in hospitality and retail because they need the people there, or picking fruit, or for example. I can add so much more value, as we said, going back to the original question, by paying the right amount of tax by getting a job, a highly paid job, or a well-paid job.
So there's going to be this symbiotic balance between government and enterprise about putting in a structure. And by the way, listeners, symbiotic is not our word of the week. There is going to be this balance between enterprises and the government to create that tax structure and incentives to get the golden generation back into meaningful employment. As Simon Long tells us in episode 9, we are sleepwalking into a knowledge catastrophe. So how do we wake everyone up?
That's a really good question. In terms of waking them up, I think there are those big questions, those big numbers like 37 billion, but there's also the rich gold thread of experience that we have. We've worked through recessions. We are resourceful. We are used to working with people of all ages and backgrounds, and we have less axe to grind in terms of we've made it in our careers. We want to do the best thing for society and the business. I mean, if you think about it, people, planet, and profit, and I think we are the group of people who have the most to gain and the least to lose from investing in getting us back to work, because there's so much knowledge there which we are not passing on to the next generation while we're sitting here at home looking for roles. And this isn't about us versus them, or men versus women, because it's about society, and it's about the good of enterprise, and it's about growth, that much hallowed, that word we all hear. Growth ain't going to happen if you're not letting people who've done it before do it again for you.
Absolutely spot on. So lots of interesting nuggets in there, Sheila, but there's one key message that you want the listeners to your podcast to take away today. What do you think that would be?
Wisdom, crystallized wisdom, is an essential part, an essential ingredient to the future wealth, happiness, and health of this country.
And I think that is a very good summary of your thoughts today. So, Sheila Hooper, thank you very much indeed for giving up your time and energy and being on the Old Man and the CV podcast today.
Thank you very much for having me, Andy. It's been a great pleasure.
Well, that's it for episode 11 with our guest, Sheila Hooper. Sheila's details are in the episode notes, along with our sponsors, Quick Brown Fox PR. Just time for the credits. For the music intro and the idents, Abigail Eva Molly 1. This is an Almost Pro production for 23 Magic, copyright 2023. See you next week, Santiago amigos.